Welcome back to CivilNet. I'm your host, Patrick Elliott. I'm honored to be joined today by former Turkish parliamentarian Garo Paylan. Mr. Paylan, thanks for coming on and joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I want to talk about getting the political landscape in Turkey, because on the surface it seems like an extremely united nationalistic country, whereas really it's an extremely fractured country. You have the eastern part that's very Kurdish, you have Istanbul that's very liberal, and Erdogan is kind of bringing back Islamism and undoing a lot of Mustafa Kemal's secularist and democratic efforts, right? So I want to understand what state is Turkey in currently? Do you see it as a stable trajectory? Is it unstable? We don't have a deep enough understanding of what Erdogan's really doing in Turkey.
Actually, Turkey was established with a nationalist ideology, and Christian minorities, Armenians, Assyrians, Greeks, suffered first. We were thrown out of Anatolia, Turkey, and they built a nation with a nationalist ideology, the Armenians who stayed in Turkey had to stay silent until 1995, because Turkey was always nationalist, and the West appeased Turkey because Turkey had this strategic importance. It was between Russia and the NATO. But then not only the Armenians, let's say, conservatives suffered as well. Alevis suffered. Other minorities suffered, so there was demands for democracy. Until 1995, when Turkey started EU accession process, it was really great for the Armenians and other minorities. It was a window of opportunity for us. Until that day, I couldn't even use my name publicly as Garo. Sometimes my family called me Kaya, and I couldn't call my mama as mama. She called me to say Anne instead of mama, because there was repression against Armenians then. But we enjoyed that EU accession process. We could even speak about Armenian genocide. Hrant Dink was public, and after he was assassinated, we were outspoken about Armenian genocide. We could even commemorate Armenian genocide at the Taksim Square. What I'm trying to say is, when Turkey turned its face to Europe, to the civilization, we were doing better as Armenians. And Armenia was doing better as well. As you know, there was a football diplomacy, and we were about to open the borders. Of course, we were biased. Turks were biased against Armenians, and the vice versa was true. But there was a real progress. So we benefited from that. But after 2015, as an opportunist leader, Erdogan left the democratic path, because there was a Gülenist movement which he had a coalition with. They had a power struggle, they fought with each other, and Erdogan just made a coalition with the nationalists. Then things started to deteriorate. And unfortunately, in 10 years, he demolished almost all the democratic institutions. So Turkey is living a very dark winter. Another reason is, some European leaders, Sarkozy and Merkel, said Turkey can never be a member of EU. That was another reason why Turkey started to deteriorate. That there was a vicious cycle. So when Turkey's face is towards EU, I guess we were doing better. When Turkey's face is towards Moscow or Baku, things started to deteriorate again.
Can I ask you, Garo, you can answer just from your opinion if you want, but do you think the 2016 coup attempt was a genuine coup attempt, or was it Erdogan orchestrated to just grasp power and hold on to it?
It was a genuine coup attempt.
So the Gülenists were trying to overthrow him?
Of course, and I know it because there was a peace process. And as you know, Turkey has a Kurdish problem. There was a peace process with the Kurds. And things were moving forward with that. But you can say the Gülenist movement or the status quo or the army was not happy with it. The nationalists, I mean, because it would be the end of that genocidal or nationalist, ultra-nationalist, racist regime, and Turkey would be a member of EU if Turkey could make peace with the Kurds and Armenians. Because those kind of regimes need enemies. Either it's a Kurd or Armenian. And they started to do manipulations, provocations. There were bombings started, and we warned Erdogan that this is a coup process. No, you need to take care of it, but he didn't listen to us, unfortunately. There were uprisings, and the uprisings were repressed by repression, and it was the preparation of coup process, and it happened in 2016. It was an actual coup process, but luckily it didn't succeed. But unfortunately, Erdogan afterwards, we just urged him to go back to democracy, but he did his civil coup afterwards with his nationalist partner, and he demolished all the institutions. Now parliament is not functioning. Judiciary is only a stick in Erdogan's hand, and there is no media freedom. When I'm looking to Armenia, really, it is not even comparable. No, Turkey doesn't have any media freedom at all. So all the institutions have demolished. So it is only a democracy now, unfortunately.
It's interesting. Some of our local analysts, and also there was a Turkey expert he's an American, but who mentioned that who was explaining how Erdogan essentially dismantled the army. That a lot of the most competent generals and officers were Kemalists, and now he's kind of stuffing them with his friends and so on. I suppose that could be good for us, but what is your impression on the institutions that he's leaving behind?
No, Erdogan only cares about his power. He is an opportunist leader. He was pro-EU because of his interests, because there was, as you said, strong army, strong status quo, which was against democracy, and he just put Turkey's anchor in EU to get rid of that nationalist ideology in the bureaucracy. And it was good for us, actually. But afterwards, when Erdogan saw that his Gülenist partner just betrayed him, and he made a coalition with the nationalists, ultra-nationalists. And unfortunately, Erdogan is not ruling the country, I can tell. Erdogan is only a mechanist. There was a chance that Turkey, for him to leave a legacy like making Turkey as a democracy, but now he's only a mechanist. He did not establish this vicious state. He is only a mechanist, and unfortunately, it was always like this. So things went as usual now. That window of opportunity had to have closed, but we still have hopes. Our hopes have not ended. Now in 2028 we will have the elections, but they established a new regime, which is nationalist, ultra-nationalist. But there is another opportunity. I have to tell. I had told so many Marxists, but still Erdogan is an opportunist. He sometimes, because the relations with the EU, with the West, can be only transactional now. And West is still showing Erdogan a cold shoulder. And sometimes we are encouraging them, saying them, just sanction Erdogan and don't give him anything, don't have any relations. But if the West has no relations with Erdogan, with Turkey, Turkey turns its face to Moscow or Baku. I guess it is not good for us. As we need to encourage Turkey's face to be towards West. If Turkey doesn't have any relations with the West, I guess it cannot be beneficial for us. Because after 2015, things started to deteriorate. Turkey became allies with Azerbaijan and endorsed Azerbaijan. And I came here to warn Armenia that Turkey left the democratic path and they are using sophisticated weapons against Kurds. And these sophisticated weapons can turn to Armenia, and it happened, unfortunately. We had to be ready for the war. We were not ready. But we had to be ready for the peace as well. But unfortunately, we were not ready for the peace as well.
Let's talk a little bit about this whole Zur Corridor that we keep hearing about. Erdogan every 6 months or so keeps bringing it up. Lately he's been a little bit quiet about it. It's mostly the Russians who've been talking about it. But to me, I suppose it's a bit incomprehensible because they already have trade routes to Central Asia. They have them going through Georgia, which Georgia is a very stable country for Turkey. There's a lot of Turkish investment. They have it going through Iran, which I understand it's a little bit less comfortable for them. It's a regional rival, but it passes through largely Azeri or Turkic areas. So why this emphasis on slicing Syunik? Is it really an Erdogan project, or is it some vanity thing? What's the reason behind it, and why is it so dangerous for Armenia?
You know, as Erdogan said, Turkey interfered to 2020 Karabakh war, and they thought they would have leverage over Caucasus with that war. But just after the war, I said it would only Russia will be the winner of this war, and Turkey will be one of the losers, and it happened. And just after the war, we had so many conversations with the government, and they said, "Garo, you were right," because they saw that only Russians had the leverage, and they brokered the peace deal, as you know, and Turkey was out of that peace deal. Turkey had no leverage, and I told them, "You had almost nothing with this." No outcome of this war, but you can have so much leverage with peace, And then I convinced them to start the normalization process, and it started. And at least in 4 years, in almost 4 years, Erdogan at least 3 times wanted to open Turkish-Armenian border, and he never endorsed a corridor which would be controlled by the Russians. Because it is not in Turkey's interest. Because Turkey, of course, wants to have good relations with Russia, but they want to have good relations with EU. Turkey is doing most of its trade with EU countries, and if that road is controlled, is a peace road, then Turkey can have trade with the Central Asian countries, including Armenia, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, and others. But if that route is controlled by Russia, then the wealth is going to be in Russian hands, and it is not in Turkey's interest.
So why is Erdogan pushing for it? Why is he making comments? He flew to Shushi last year and talked about it.
Actually, no. Sometimes there are words to please your partner, but this real policy is not that. But what Erdogan is waiting is some kind of a credit coming from the West. Because West doesn't have that kind of a great master plan, a broader vision for this middle corridor. It is even the plans are not ready. There are only talks. Okay, EU mission is here watching, but I guess it is not enough. We are a small island in this geography, and Armenia is vulnerable. This geography is not stable and will not be stable. And I guess this geography have entered a dark era. Now, I have deep concerns about it. Let's say, if an Iran-Israel war breaks out, what is going to happen? I guess Armenia is going to be vulnerable. So we need to think about it. So the only way out for Armenia is I guess it is Turkey. It is the lifeline. So we need to be pragmatic. Of course, we have, let's say, we are full of resentment, including myself. I am full of resentment against Turkey, but Erdogan is always making this calculation. If I open this border, Turkish-Armenian border, and be in favor of peace between Armenia and Azerbaijan, Putin is not going to be happy, as you know, because peace means less leverage for Russia. And Aliyev is not going to be happy as well. Those are two minuses, because Erdogan is doing trade with them and have so much interest coming from those two countries. And he's turning his face to the West. At least in 4 years, at least 4 times, Erdogan sent messages to, let's say, Washington, D.C. and Europe. I am ready to open the border, Turkish-Armenian border. But unfortunately, the Western countries didn't give Erdogan any credit. One of the reasons of them giving no credit to Erdogan was our diaspora is not in favor of giving Erdogan anything. They are just signaling those administrations, just punish Turkey. Sometimes I said this several times, it is a controversial thought, I know. Sometimes we think our mindset is like this as Armenians. Whatever is bad for Turks, it is good for Armenians.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's the right approach, because if your neighbor is a, let's say, a gangster neighbor, you can't be safe in that apartment, let's say. But if your neighbor is a democratic neighbor, or a neighbor who has democratic friends, who's doing trade with the democratic partners, you can feel safer, I guess. So this should be the right approach. And this geography is our destiny. We have to be in favor of our neighbors, especially, which is a lifeline. If we have a dream, let's say, to be a member of EU, we need a bridge. That bridge is Turkey, and we have so much interest. And let me tell you one more thing. In the Turkish government, there are so many Kurds, let's say, in Erdogan's party. And their cities are poor, so much poorer than Armenia, let's say, Armenian cities. And they know if this border is opened, both sides will benefit. Let's say 2 million tourists are coming here and 2 million tourists are coming to eastern cities of Turkey. I am sure if we establish peace and open the borders, at least 10 million tourists are going to come to both countries, and both countries are going to benefit, and trade is going to start, diplomatic relations are going to start, and roads are going to pass, and that is going to be the security of Armenia. Turks and Greeks, let's say, they shout at each other, but they never fight because they have interest. They have problems, but they have open borders, let's say, Turkey and Greece. They are doing trade, tourists are coming and going. So this is the normal we need to have. Of course, we will continue to have problems, but neighbors, if you have a problem with your neighbor, but the door is closed, you can never solve your problem with your neighbor.
So since Erdogan has, as you said, shown the will to open the border, why hasn't he? Is it through pressure from Baku?
What happened? Let me tell you. Turkey wanted F-16s, as you know, last year, and what Biden wanted was Sweden to be member of NATO, and Erdogan said no, as you know, and he was shouting, "No, I'm not going to let that happen." And he made his coalition partners say no as well. He was shouting, "It's never going to happen." I knew it was that no was a yes, because Erdogan was shouting just to have more from USA. And I was I'm no longer a member of Turkish parliament. I'm living in DC, and I know that I can be more beneficial to Armenia from there. So I tried to convince US government to ask Erdogan to open the border, and I have heard from Ankara that they are ready to open the border, and they would show United States that this is a goodwill from Turkey. They are ready to open the border, and Mr. Biden and Erdogan would talk, and that will be on the list that both sides would say, okay, there will be a border opening. There might be a border opening, but unfortunately, Armenians living in Armenian organizations in United States were not in favor of this. That was one of the reasons, and maybe Mr. Biden didn't like Erdogan so much. He didn't want to give more to him. It was not on the list, so that border was not opened. Erdogan is thinking like this: if I'm just going to open the border, but seeing no credit, I will make Putin unhappy, Aliyev unhappy, but getting nothing out of it. So his intentions are not, let's say, with wisdom or with human rights, this or that. No, he is an opportunist leader. He can do anything. So I guess we need a lifeline, and we need to mitigate the threats that we have in this very dangerous geography. For that, and there is a lifeline, and Turkey is a big country. Our economy is $25 billion. Turkey's only defense budget is more than that. Turkey's economy is $1.2 trillion. So that kind of an economy, we can benefit from that economy, and we can start a conversation and have good relations. One more thing I have to tell you. So little Turks are coming to Armenia. Whoever my friends are coming, whenever they come, because I encourage them to come, whenever they come, their thoughts change. They say they are like us. They smile like us. They cry like us. They eat like us. They dance like us. What is this problem now? They don't understand, because Turkish nationalists want this border to closed forever because they benefit from it. But we are not the beneficiary of this closed border. So I guess we need to be in favor of opening, whatever the price is. Nowadays, Turkish economy minister or the government wants to have customs union modernization with EU, let's say. That is what they want. But France, especially France, is opposing this. We have a diaspora in France. No, I want to tell them, no, let's be in favor of this in return of opening the border and encouraging, the peace in the South Caucasus. Why not? It will be, of course, Turkey will be one of the beneficiaries, but we will be one of the beneficiaries as well. Because, Hakan Fidan went to Brussels 15 days ago, but he had nothing. Europe is not offering anything because they want Turkey as a buffer zone, because there are so many refugees coming from other countries. Europe wants to see Turkey as a buffer zone. But that kind of a, let's say, ultra-nationalist, racist buffer zone is not beneficial for us. We need to rethink about this.
Let's talk a little bit about Turkish relations with Baku. It's been quite interesting this last year because after the Karabakh War, we're hearing, one nation, two states, brotherhood forever, and yada yada. But this year, recent reports show that the #1 supplier of weapons to Azerbaijan is actually Russia, followed very closely by Israel, and then a couple minor countries. So Turkey didn't even make the list, which is interesting to see. And second of all, they're now finding themselves diametrically opposed when it comes to the Israel-Gaza conflict. And just in general, two dictators, two authoritarian men can't stay in the same room for a very long time and call themselves friends and brothers, right? So is there a rift going on behind the surface? Does Baku really hold that much leverage over Istanbul, over Ankara, so that it keeps the border shut, that it keeps unlimited, indefinite support towards Azerbaijan?
Even brothers have fights, as you know, and there is a great big angle with Turkey and Azerbaijan when it comes to Israel and Palestinian cause. And let's say Erdogan made a statement, as you know, just like we just conquered Karabakh, we can go into Israel. And Aliyev was not happy with it. And he really slammed at Erdogan's face, and Erdogan felt it. And that is then Mr. Ruben Rubinyan and Serdar Kılıç met at the Turkish-Armenian border. It was a slam back coming from Erdogan that, I have options as well. But unfortunately, Aliyev has more leverage in Ankara than Erdogan has leverage in Baku, unfortunately. Turkey is the big state. Azerbaijan is a small state, but small state decides what the big states, Turkey's policy is going to be for Caucasus, unfortunately, because Azerbaijan invested so much in Turkey during these 2 decades, and they have so much leverage in the, let's say, media, economy, bureaucracy. By all means, we have almost no leverage. Let's say during the 44-day war, there were manipulations, as you know. Media was saying Armenia attacked. Armenians are killing civilians. There was nothing about Armenian sufferings about that war. Only I was outspoken, and they targeted me with headlines. So this means, I guess, we need to build leverage with our neighbors. That is a lesson we need to take out of it. Let's say we trust only, let's say, Iran's red line about that Zur Corridor. But can we trust Iran? Let's say, of course, they will be consistent about this position. But what if Iran-Israel war breaks out? Can they care that much about this? No, I don't think so. We trusted Russia for 3 decades, and we thought Russia will be always there. So these kind of brotherhoods, let's say, between Ankara and Azerbaijan can anytime change, because Erdogan is an opportunist leader, and he only cares about his interests if he sees something better coming from the West, because there will be minuses about when he opens the border, have good relations with Turkey, let's say Moscow is not going to be happy, Baku is not going to be happy. But if Brussels and Washington DC offers more than that, which they can offer, I guess Erdogan will be there. And I think we should be in favor of this.
Mr. Paylan, thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
And thank you for watching CivilNet.